12 spine-chilling girlfriend horror tales revealed secrets that will haunt you forever. Sarah's heart raced as she scrolled through the ominous title, the hairs on her arms standing at attention. What if he truly is dangerous? She thought, even as Jake's charming smile twisted her mind with uncertainty. 1 minute, everything was sweet and light, her first job post-college, settling into her own apartment, and the mesmerizing neighbor next door. The next, she was spiraling into a nightmare that began with a simple spark of attraction. Charming, good-looking, and a little mysterious, Jake was everything she could have wished for until the haunting messages appeared on his phone. The intrigue morphed into dread when she caught a glimpse of cryptic text from a girl who called herself his ex. The words chill her to the bone. "Get out before it's too late," it read, a shiver creeping down her spine. It felt like a warning echoing from the depths of every horror movie she'd ever watched. Her gut twisted, but Sarah brushed it off. Mothers are typically protective, right? Her own mom's uneasiness quickly became the background noise of her new romance. But the feeling didn't fade, it grew. It became harder to ignore after her visit to Mrs. Hawkins, the elderly neighbor known around the neighborhood for her tales of the past. Walking into Mrs. Hawkins' cozy, yet eerie living room felt like stepping into a library of secrets. She listened, heart pounding, as the old woman's voice lowered conspiratorially. "You don't know what happened to the girls before you. They vanished, Sarah. One day, they were here, and the next, they were gone like dust in the wind." She recounted, her eyes glistening with the weight of unspeakable histories. Panic enveloped Sarah as Mrs. Hawkins painted vivid images of betrayal and darkness lurching beneath her lovely suburb. Days passed by, but the dread didn't lift. Instead, Jake began to change. The smile that once gave her butterflies now twisted into something predatory. He would check her phone, comment on her plans, and slowly start pulling her away from her friends and family, all masked under the guise of concern. "It's better if you stay home with me," he'd say with a chilling smile that sent shivers racing down her spine. The once peaceful home transformed into a prison where every shadow felt alive and haunting. Just a late-night stroll outside, and she could sense watchers behind every curtain, curious eyes assessing her vulnerability. It was then that she knew she had to confront Jake. When she did, it started with unease that mounted quickly. "Why are you tracking my every move, Jake?" The accusation slipped from her lips before she could catch it. He laughed, but the sound felt wrong, sharp, dragging against her courage. "I just care for you, Sarah." That phrase sent ice through her veins, erasing any hint of warmth he had ever ignited in her heart. Desperation clawed at her as night descended. Fleeing seemed like her only choice. The dim street lights cast twisted shadows that danced sinisterly, her thoughts a swirling vortex of panic. Just as she thought she found clarity, her phone buzzed with impending dread. Another text. "You don't know what's coming. Get out now while you still can," it read, sending a tremor through her. The alarm bells rang louder now. Was that someone's desperate cry for help? Would she be swept beneath the surface of what she once believed to be a quiet, safe neighborhood? At the center of it all lay the darker truths Mrs. Hawkins spoke of, chilling whispers wrapping around Sarah like a noose. It was only a matter of time before the shadows would catch up. Standing at the edge of the unknown, she could no longer ignore the choice looming ahead. Was she going to put her trust in the deceptive comfort of her quaint neighborhood, or confront the horror lurking just beneath the skin of her reality? The wind howled outside, rattling the windows of Sarah's apartment. It felt like a living entity, reflecting the storm twisting through her mind. Heart racing, she paced back and forth, recalling the words of the unknown girl, the warning that echoed louder with each passing moment. She could sense Jake's looming presence not just in the shadows of their home, but also deep in her thoughts, like an uninvited guest refusing to leave. "Get it together," she whispered to herself, gathering her resolve. Filtering through her memories of Jake, she tried to find the remnants of the man she'd fallen for, the alluring smile and soft laughter that felt like home. But those memories twisted, mixing with the horror that enveloped her now. Each gentle caress of his fingers, once tender, became a vice grip pulling her further into madness. She could feel it rising, insanity brought on by fear. She could almost hear his laughter creeping through the walls, mocking her desperation. A soft knock at the door shattered her thoughts, sending her heart into her throat. It's just a neighbor, she mused, trying to steady her breath. But as she peeked through the peephole, she felt the icy grip of dread freeze her to the spot. Jake stood there, drenched from the rain, with an unsettling smile that melted away any warm feeling she had left. "Hey babe, I was just thinking about you," he said, his voice sugary sweet but laced with something darker. What part of him was that alluring man she'd first met? She fumbled for the door handle, heart racing, itching to bolt. "Jake, I need some space," she managed, every fiber of her being screaming to run. His smile faltered for a heartbeat, then returned, sharper. "You don't mean that, Sarah. I only want what's best for you." His words slid over her, coated in honey but dripping with venom. "Please just go." "I can't do this right now," she stuttered, panic welling in her throat. "Sarah, don't make me come in," he said, his voice suddenly low and dangerous. "You won't like it when I'm forced to get in." The words hung heavy in the air, the threat palpable, solidifying the realization that he was written with darkness. Fleeing was all that lingered in her mind. She rushed to the window, the rain pouring like a shroud outside. Maybe I should just jump, she thought, despair threatening to swallow her whole. But then she remembered Mrs. Hawkins' warning. Hadn't the other girls tried to escape? Where had they gone? A frantic look around her apartment revealed shadows creeping, swirling, alive. Every corner seemed to harbor secrets, lies, and identities lurking, waiting to pounce. As she turned back to the door, she spotted Jake's silhouette, now aware of her decision to bolt. "Just go," she whispered, afraid he'd hear her trembling. But he did, an unsettling smile creeping across his lips as he began to enter, his figure morphing into a monstrous shadow. "Don't resist me, Sarah. I promise to keep you safe," he crooned, and the words cut deeper than any knife. In that moment, a choice loomed before her: stay and confront the monster she once loved, or flee into the storm and unknown dangers outside. Her breath hitched, and the next heartbeat felt like a countdown. Before she could reconsider, she took a step toward the door. Jake's laughter echoed, chilling her bones, but deep down, she heard that ominous message warning her. "Get out while you still can." She gasped, suddenly aware of the intricate web Jake had spun, who was truly watching her from the shadows of their life. And how was he connected to the girls before? Just then, her phone buzzed like a signal for her instinct to leap into action. As Jake's hand gripped the doorknob, ready to enter, she clasped her phone, her breath hitching in her throat. The message was clear. "Sarah, you're not alone in this. Find them before it's too late." Could she trust the unknown sender? But the real question pressed hard against her heart: was there really any escape from the monster next door? The doorknob jiggled, a soft click echoing in the tense air, and Sarah felt a surge of adrenaline sweep through her. She had to move, to decide, now. The suggestion from the unknown sender tugged at her thoughts like a lifeline, but what if it led her into an even darker labyrinth? "Sarah, open up," Jake pleaded, his voice unnaturally sweet, like honey mixed with poison. Panic surged through her veins. She was no longer just afraid of what Jake might do, she was terrified of what she might find if she opened that door. With the phone trembling in her hand, she swiped the screen, heart pounding, preparing to type a frantic reply. But she hesitated. Was this safe? What could she say to a stranger with a promise of hope? "Let me in. You always believed in us, remember, babe?" His tone shifted, a tap of desperation creeping in like a crack in the window. The eerie calmness of the storm outside intensified, swirling the darkness like a sinister tide. "Just leave me alone," she yelled, surprising herself with her own strength. The words echoed back at her, and for a fleeting moment, an illusion of power surged within. But Jake's laughter cut through it like a sharp knife, dark and twisted. "I can't do that, sweetheart. You belong with me. We're meant for each other," he said, voice so low it sent shivers up her spine. His confidence radiated through the door, a magnetic pull that made her skin crawl. Her eyes darted to the window again. Rain lashed against the glass as if trying to warn her off, urging her to escape. But escape to where? Sarah felt trapped, cornered like prey in her own home. Get out while you still can. The message echoed, finally pushing her into action. She dashed into her bedroom, quickly shoving clothes and essentials into her backpack. Heart racing, she gritted her teeth, trying to silence the fears creeping back in. Hey! Don't you dare ignore me! Jake spat, his voice thick with anger. It made her fumble. She peeked out through the curtain of her bedroom window. The streets were slick and empty, shrouded in a curtain of rain, but she could see a silhouette a few blocks down, a figure slinking between the shadows. It flipped her stomach, an instinctual fear that urged her to stay put. Sarah! Jake's voice shattered her concentration. You think you can just run? I know all your moves. The threat hung in the air, dark and deceptive. She turned, heart pounding, grabbing her phone again. Her fingers hovered over the screen. Help me! How do I find them? She typed, breathless. Before she could hit send, the lights flickered, plunging her into darkness for just a heartbeat, an outage, or something worse. She felt her heart drop into her stomach. That was the moment she knew the walls were closing in. Sarah, I'm coming in, he bellowed, frustration spilling over into rage, a feral promise that whatever happened next would tear apart their already shattered facade. With no time to waste, she slipped on her backpack. A quick glance in the mirror showed wild eyes and a face drained of color. Her breath quickened as she hurried to the door that stood between her and freedom. But before she could escape, a loud crash echoed from the living room, the unmistakable sound of splintering wood. Jake had forced his way in. Time's up, he growled, his voice now deeper, tinged with something primal. All sense of control slipped away as the door shuttered, tremors shaking Sarah's resolve. The truth was unraveling faster than she could keep pace. She now realized she had only one option, one chance to survive her monster. There was a window behind her, slightly ajar. Without thinking, she lunged toward it, a leap into the unknown. As she propelled herself into the storm, the world outside swallowed her whole, the rain drenching her as she fell against the pavement. Panic turned into clarity. What was waiting out there? Would she find the girls before it was too late, or would the storm claim her as its next victim? Jake's figure loomed behind her, the storm's howls drowning out the chilling promises he'd made. Could she outrun the monster? Each step felt as if she was racing against time itself, every heartbeat drumming her resolve. But as shadows began to stretch out toward her, she knew the truth. The escape might only lead her deeper into the darkness. And the question loomed heavy, would she ever really be free, or was she only delaying the inevitable? Every drop of rain felt like ice against her skin as Sarah stumbled forward, breathless and disoriented. She could still hear Jake's voice ringing in her ears, taunting and relentless. With each hurried glance over her shoulder, the oppressive darkness seemed to close in tighter, feeding on her fear. The streets were deserted, illuminated sporadically by the flickering streetlights that buzzed like angry wasps. She sprinted, her boots splashing through puddles, each sound echoing louder than the last. Heart racing, she caught the silhouette again, a figure moving, blending in with the shadows. Fear gripped her heart tighter. Was it friend or foe? Keep going, she silently urged herself, the alleyways ahead beckoning with the promise of concealment. But there was nowhere safe anymore, not with Jake so close behind. She could practically feel his breath on her neck, his rage still building. Then she noticed movement in her peripheral vision, and before she could process it, a flash of pale caught her eye. A girl, a ghostly apparition sprinting from the gloom, hair flying wildly. Sarah! The voice was familiar, yet foreign, soaked in agony. Anna? It was a whisper, barely making it past her chattering teeth. Sarah's stomach twisted. It couldn't be. Is that you? The figure stopped, the shadow cast from behind concealing part of her face. Help me! Before he arrives! The desperation in Anna's voice cut deep, sharper than the storm. It echoed the ceramic tenderness of their childhood secrets, a time when life was simple and darkness was just a figment of their imagination. Where? Sarah's voice wavered. Her instincts screamed to run, to escape whatever dark fate awaited her, yet the allure of rescuing her friend held her in place. The primal connection between them outweighed her fear. Anna pointed down the alley, her eyes wide with panic. This way! Hurry! Sarah took a step forward, then another, before stopping herself. What if it was a trap? Her heart hammered against her ribcage, a raw desperation warring with reason. Sarah! Anna's voice trembled. The fear in her friend's gaze was unmistakable. You have to trust me, it's the only way. Before she could make up her mind, a low growl erupted behind her. The sound slithered through the rain like venom. Jake was drawing near. His footsteps, heavy and deliberate, echoed with the malevolence of a predator enjoying the hunt. Now! Anna screamed, her voice slicing through Sarah's hesitation. Fear ignited within her, and she bolted toward Anna, following the flicker of hope she represented. But as they raced, shadows collided, forming into shapes that seemed to reach out for them. The darkness had come alive, a realm of horrors, each whispering secrets too terrifying to comprehend. They turned sharply into the side alley, the pounding rain drenching them. But the world warped as they stumbled, cloaked in shadows, panic clawing at Sarah's throat. Animals? Monsters? The air thickened, suffocating her once more. Anna was still there, almost hovering, leading her deeper into the dark, but something wasn't right. Sarah hesitated, glancing back, and the shadows transformed. Jake's figure loomed larger and more menacing, a silhouette of fury and despair. Don't let him get you! Anna screamed, but this time her voice sounded different, distorted. With a breath caught in her chest, Sarah turned back to Anna. What do you mean? But instead, she was met with a chilling grin spreading across her friend's face, a grin that held no warmth, only darkness. Before she could react, the clouds parted and a flash of lightning illuminated the alley. In that split second, Sarah's heart dropped. Anna wasn't Anna at all. It was something far worse. Time froze as the truth unfurled before her like a sinister tapestry. The monsters weren't just in the shadows, they were everywhere. Help me? She whispered, her voice trembling. But Anna's laugh echoed through the rain, a sound of pure, wicked glee. And that voice, it wasn't Anna at all. As the storm thundered above, Sarah faced the nightmare she had been running from. The real terror had only just begun. What lay ahead? Could she still escape the hellish trap that was her life? Or had she just stepped into a much darker realm? The laughter crackled through the air like shattered glass, sharp and disorienting. Sarah stumbled back, her left foot slipping on the slick pavement. The shadows twisted and pulsed, amorphous figures rising, hungry and reaching out, hungry for her fear. Not Anna. Whatever stood before her wore her friend's face, but it was a grotesque mask, a vessel for something wicked. Foolish girl, the creature hissed, the words dripped with malice. Its eyes glowed with a phosphorescent light, narrowing as it stepped closer, casting long, claw-like fingers, scraping against the brick walls. You didn't really think you could escape him? I am the darkness you fear most. She turned to run, but the world spun around her, the sounds of thunder clashing above mixing with the bustle of raindrops pounding against her. The air felt thick and charged, heavy on her chest, as if the very atmosphere conspired to crush her with despair. Sarah! The voice that called her name was no longer distorted. It was soft, familiar, but far too close. Her heart dropped as a second figure emerged from the shadows, equally familiar yet equally wrong. I'm here! This way! Stay back! Sarah screamed, instinctively backing away from both of them. She could feel Jake's presence, a darkness unfurling behind her, a predator waiting to pounce. What do you want from me? The first figure, Anna, if it were really her, grinned wider, revealing teeth too sharp, too many. We want to play. You can see us. You can hear us. But can you survive when the darkness reveals its true self? Thunder rumbled violently overhead, and Sarah turned, desperate. She could still feel Jake, a low growl reverberating through the wet streets. He was nigh upon her, coiled and ready to strike. With each breath, she could sense his rage, a power that knew no bounds. Trust me. The second figure gestured frantically, pleading, a desperate echo of the person Sarah once knew. Please, I'm not what she says. We can escape together. But you must hurry. Panic twisted through her veins, gnawing persistently as she weighed her options. The air felt electrified, every decision loaded with peril. But how could she trust either of them? A ghostly Sarah? A demon wearing her friend's visage? In her hesitation, more shadows poured into the alleyway, swirling around her like a torrential tide. The walls began to pulse, breathless and terrifying, as if each brick thrummed with a life of its own. Run! Anna's voice shattered through the cacophony, but which voice was true? The shadows grew thicker, oppressive. They lunged with claws made of the night, grasping. If you do not choose now, we'll lose you. Sarah! Jake's voice resonated, deep and mocking, an omen echoing from the background. You don't have a choice. You never did. Just give in. Her heart raced as two worlds converged, the enticing familiarity of a friend and the looming horror of an unspoken truth. Sarah took a step back, surveying their malignant stares and groping shadows. Determination coursed through her as she made a choice. She wouldn't be claimed, wouldn't allow them to swallow her. Never! She screamed as she sprinted down the alley, trusting her instincts and the fading light of day. The rain fell harder, each drop like a whispered warning, unintelligible but urgent. But the shadows chased her, the darkness twisted and convulsed, reaching for her with clawed fingers. Yet, the figures behind her were not done. Laughter erupted once more, a cacophony that opened her eyes to the growing truth. The deeper she ran, the more blurry the line between friend and enemy became. With the jagged edges of the alley looming ahead, Sarah felt an overwhelming weight settle on her. What was at the end of this corridor? Was there an exit or another trap waiting? With each heartbeat, the shadows tightened their grip. Sprinting forward, she sensed herself unraveling, losing her grip on reason. Lurking in the confines of her mind, a question begged: would she ever escape the horrors that sought her? Or would she succumb to the darkness within? As they neared the alley's end, a fracture of light beckoned. But with every step closer, the ground beneath her feet trembled, and an echoing growl surfaced once more, a sound that promised no salvation. What stood waiting in that light? An ally, or perhaps something far worse? The light ahead flickered, teasing her with a warmth that felt too distant. Sarah's heart thundered in her chest as she sprinted forward, her breaths coming in ragged gasps. The shadows clawed at her heels, hungry for a taste of her dread, their whispers coalescing into a chaotic symphony that echoed in her mind. Don't let them catch you, they thrive on fear. The second voice, Jake's, reverberated closer now. Sarah forced her legs to pump faster, desperation fueling her resolve. But in the back of her mind, the doubts crept like ivy, tendrils of uncertainty wrapping around her thoughts. Who was Jake, really? Could he be the answer, or was he just another illusion? Sarah glanced back. The shadows writhed and twisted, contorting into familiar shapes that laughed with her friends' voices. Come back, Sarah. We just want to help. They sang out, weaving through the mist like sirens, luring her deeper into the dark. Each step brought a surge of dread, the weight of their gaze heavy upon her. No! She screamed, the sound ripping from her throat. She wasn't going to give in. She wouldn't let them rewrite her story. But as she barreled toward the light, the ground trembled again, treacherously pulling at her footing. The flooding rain pooled beneath her, muddy and thick, like the weight of despair clawing its way into her heart. A wall of darkness surged forward, and with every fiber of her being, she pushed harder, even as doubt gnawed at her resolve. Choose, Sarah. Anna's voice cut through the storm, sharp as shards of glass. The laughter erupted again, maniacal, reverberating off the alley walls like gunfire in a silent night. We can protect you. But you must choose us. Her palms slickened with sweat, heart racing faster than the pounding rain. The light was closer, but it flickered in and out, unsure. But something was off about it, like the world had shifted, warped. She felt the pull of the dark behind her, a hungry maw devouring hope. I'm not afraid of you. She gasped, believing her words even as they began to falter. With a final burst of adrenaline, she launched herself into the bright corona ahead. Yet instead of soft warmth, her body collided with something solid and cool, a wall that staggered her, throwing her back into the chilling embrace of shadow. Panic clawed at her as she tried to stand, her breath freezing in her throat. Dark laughter, and then silence. Sarah, the voice was deep and resonant, laced with crystalline clarity. Welcome home. A figure materialized before her, silhouetted against the baffling light, a monstrous blend of shadows that bent and swayed like dancing flames. It stepped closer, revealing its shape, a reflection of herself twisted into an abyss. You should have chosen. In horror, she realized it bore not just her features, but her emotions twisted into something vile. What are you? The sound of her voice was foreign, trembling. A low chuckle rumbled through the air, echoing her fears. You stand at a crossroads, Sarah. Fear has no limits here. It feeds on your decisions, makes you question who you are. As it extended a gnarled hand toward her, an image flashed in Sarah's mind, a life once vibrant, now shrouded in chaos. Memories of laughter, love, and a friendship that had tethered her to the world flickered, drowning under the weight of uncertainty. Why is it always a choice? Sarah stammered. Is fear all there is? It is what connects us all, it hissed, voice like rusted metal. But here you will learn, embracing the darkness is your salvation, or maybe your end. The shadows swirled, engulfing her in a cacophony of whispers. She fought against the tide, struggling against the voices that beckoned to her with twisted lies. The light behind her felt so far away. And then she saw it, a glimmer of hope, a way out, but with it came a chilling realization. To escape, she might have to face the true horror lurking inside. Could she confront that malevolence and break free? Or would she succumb to her own darkness? As the darkness pressed closer, Sarah knew one thing: the moment of reckoning was near. She took a deep breath, bracing for the insidious choice that awaited her. What awaited her beyond the truth? Was the light genuine, or just another trick of the shadows? The shadows danced around her, an intoxicating whirlwind of chaos that tugged at Sarah's sanity. She felt the cold tendrils of darkness seep into her skin, wrapping tightly around her body, constricting her breath. Each whisper seemed to know her deepest fears, feeding on them like a parasite. Embrace it, Sarah, the reflection sneered, its voice an echo of her own. You know you want to. This is power. This is truth. No! The word fought its way out, but it felt weak, a feeble protest swallowed by the storm of shadows. She staggered back, searching for a foothold, a glimpse of that fading light. It danced tauntingly, flickering with the promise of hope, but the closer she reached, the more it receded. The darkness swirled and morphed, shaping into grotesque figures. Her friends twisted into nightmarish beings, their faces contorted with malice. You could save us, Sarah. Join us. Don't you want to be free? They chorused, their voices dripping with mockery. Stop it! Sarah screamed, clutching her head as if it would contain the cacophony. But the sounds only grew louder, invading her mind, clawing at her thoughts until she was drowning in them. Freedom isn't found in the light, the reflection murmured close. Look at them. They only want to hold you back. Fear is your ally. Let it in, let it become part of you. It will protect you from the betrayal of hope. The words wormed their way into her heart, sowing doubt. What if escape was just another trap? The doubt clung to her like a shroud. She gritted her teeth, fighting back. Memories of laughter, shared secrets, the warmth of friendship flooded back, images of Anna, Jake, all of them smiling in moments that felt worlds away. You don't belong here. She screamed with all her might, summoning that image as a shield. With a sudden surge of clarity, she focused on the light, willing it to break through the shadows. You're lying! And then something shifted. The shadows recoiled, howling in fury. The reflection grimaced, its twisted smile fading into a snarl. Foolish girl! You think joy is real? It's only a facade, a fleeting echo. With this ferocity, Sarah's fear morphed. It transformed from a shackle into strength. I am not afraid of you, she shouted, her voice cutting through the haze. The light flared brighter, a beacon igniting the darkness surrounding her. The ground trembled violently. Shadows pulsed, each breath feeling like the last gasp of a tempest. She hurtled forward, arms outstretched, chasing after that brilliant warmth. But the darkness lashed out, a whip of despair and hatred, striking her with merciless force. The pain surged and rippled through her body. She fell, crashing down into cold mud, gasping for breath, her resolve teetering. "Remember this pain!" The reflection roared, towering over her, a monstrous specter of her own making. "This is your reality. Struggle all you want, it won't change a thing. You will never escape from your truth." But reeling from the impact, Sarah felt a fire ignite within. She mustered her voice, forcing back the chaos. "You do not define me." She pushed through the weight of despair, each word a nail driven deep into the heart of her darkness. As she stood once more, the light pulsed, a heartbeat echoing against her. She gritted her teeth, muscles trembling from the effort. Shadows lurched as if sensing their grip weakening. "Choose, Sarah," the shadowy figure whispered, voice dripping with venom. "Will you embrace the darkness or perish in the light?" A cry tore from her lips, illuminating her resolve. "I choose to fight." In that moment, she felt the ground beneath her shift. A path formed in the swirling darkness, leading straight toward the light, beckoning her with promises of freedom. But then, something changed. The light flickered violently, and a booming laughter echoed around her, wrapping her in icy dread. "Do you really think this is the end? The light is a lie, and you are still in dark hands." As the shadows lunged at her, she understood the truth: this was only the beginning. The path to freedom may lead deeper into the unknown. What would she face down that twisted road? Was the darkness truly behind her, or merely lying in wait, ready to strike once again? The ground beneath Sarah quaked violently, as if the very earth revolted against her defiance. The swirling mist thickened, clawing at her skin, whispering sweet nothings that tasted like ash. The laughter echoed still, a phantom sound that wormed its way into her mind. As she bolted toward the flickering light, she stumbled on jagged rocks hidden beneath the mud. Every breath was a battle, each inhalation filled with despair, every exhalation a plea against the void. "You'll never escape," the shadows sneered in unison, each voice like wet silk sliding down her spine. With every step, her surroundings twisted, changing shapes, no longer just shadows, but distorted memories. The crack of bones underfoot, and the faint smell of iron seeped into her senses. Images of Anna and Jake morphed into far more sinister figures, their eyes glowing with hunger, voices dripping with sorrow. "We're lost because of you, Sarah. You abandoned us." "Stop!" she shouted, shaking her head. They weren't real. This was a trick, a cruel game designed to make her falter. "You're not real!" But guilt slashed through her heart like a blade. What if it was true? What if she had chosen to flee instead of help? The sharp pang of regret bubbled up, threatening to drag her under. Yet, as she fought through the maelstrom of despair, a flicker of memory emerged through the chaos: Jake's laugh, Anna's steadfast support. Those moments of light sparked a renewed determination within her. She focused on the light, its brilliance pulling her like a lifeline. With a sudden rush, a surge of strength poured into her veins. She stumbled towards the light, heart racing. "I won't let you win!" she cried with newfound ferocity. The shadows screamed, crashing against her, slashing at her limbs. They clawed, fangs dripping with darkness, trying to bring her down. "Join us!" they shrieked. "Embrace your fear!" And for an instant, doubt flickered in her chest, a brief moment where surrender danced at her fingertips. But she shoved it down. "I want tea!" she gasped, pushing forward, feeling the warmth of the light seep into her. It surged, powering her legs, her breath, her heartbeat. Just as her fists balled in defiance, she burst through the final wave of darkness. Light enveloped her, wrapping her in a cocoon that felt both glorious and painful. But then the warmth felt hollow, the brightness too blinding. "What have you done?" A new voice sparked from the light, trembling with an unearthly echo. "You think you found peace, but the light has its own darkness to reveal." As she blinked away the brilliance, reality set in. The landscape shifted again, revealing cold stone walls smeared with old blood and curses scribbled in trembling hands. She stood in a chamber, the walls reverberating with the last echoes of despair. Chained to the wall were figures cloaked in shadows, their faces horrifyingly familiar, their eyes wide with fear. They were her friends. "Sarah!" Anna's voice called, dripping with agony. "You shouldn't have come, no!" Fear crashed over her once more like a tide, threatening to drown her. "I can help you!" But laughter rang hollow. "There's south no escaping this place." Jake's face twisted into an expression of defeat. "Not for any of us." Sarah staggered back, heart pounding against her ribs. She trembled as she faced them, facing the looming truth. Were they real, or just another twisted deception of the shadows? The chamber pulsated with energy, shadows creeping closer, caressing her, merging with her own fear. "Take a step back," the ominous voice buzzed, wrapping around her like a worm, "and you'll finally see who you truly are." With her resolve faltering, Sarah gasped as the shadows lifted small, elongated mirrors around her. As she stared into them, they showed her reflected versions of herself intertwined in darkness, her failures, her doubts. "Is this who you want to be?" the voice whispered, taunting. "What will you sacrifice to make it stop?" As the walls closed in, Sarah felt icy dread. Was she facing the demons of her past or carving a path through the present? The shadows twirled and questions clung to her psyche. But one thought surged above the rest. Would freedom come at a cost she couldn't bear to pay? The whispers of her friends faded into a cruel melody, and she began to understand she may owe more than just her fear to escape through the light. What was the dark truth waiting for her within those anguished eyes? What sacrifice would define her next choice? The sound of chains rattled, filling the chamber with an eerie symphony of despair. Sarah stepped back, her heart pounding so loudly it drowned out the whispers creeping through the shadows. She tried to shake off the freezing tendrils of doubt tightening around her. Had the light truly been salvation, or merely a gateway to this nightmare? "Sarah!" Anna's voice quaked, pulling her from the murk. "Get out while you can! It's too late for us!" The shadows around the wall lurched forward, and Sarah felt a horrifying urge to run. But the glint of desperation in Anna's eyes anchored her. "I want to leave you!" she shouted, her throat raw with emotion. The distance between them felt impossibly vast, and panic clawed at her insides. "No, no!" Jake snarled, his face contorting with agonizing sorrow. "You can't help us. We're lost. Just go." The shadows chuckled, a sound like grinding bones, echoing her fears. They closed in, pressing against her mind and twisting her thoughts into anguish. Sarah took a shaky step toward her friends, desperation wrestling with the cold grip of reality. "Listen to them," the disembodied voice hissed, thick with malice. "They are nothing but a reflection of your guilt. You're the reason they are here. Shut up!" she screamed, clenching her fists against the onslaught of truth. Images flickered in the mirrors surrounding her. Each glass shard reflected not just failures but damning moments her back turned when they needed her most, choosing safety over loyalty. The pain of their memories became a weight that pressed harder and harder. With each passing breath, the walls of the chamber creaked, drawing closer, threatening to swallow her whole. "Make a choice." The sinister chant rose around her, the walls pulsating in time with her racing heart. "What will you give to save them?" The shadows swirled, and without warning, a figure emerged from the gloom, a grotesque mimicry of herself, layered in darkness. "Will you barter your own soul?" it sneered, grinning to reveal rows of jagged teeth. "You could save them, but at what cost?" "No!" Sarah staggered back, horror ripping through her. "I want tea." "But what if you must?" the figure taunted, tilting its head. "What if letting go is the only way to pull them free?" Doubt gnawed at her spirit. What if standing firm meant losing everything? She had always been told strength was to stand alone, yet in this moment, she felt the crushing weight of isolation. The mirrors glinted menacingly, reminding her of choices past, echoes of laughter now stained with woven sadness. The chamber shook with its own menace, the chains clanking with frantic urgency. "Choose!" The voices rose in a cacophony. Anna, Jake, the shadow self all clamoring for attention, merging into a single chilling melody. Time stretched as fear gripped Sarah. Everything she wanted, everything she feared, spiraled under an oppressive veil of darkness. What was she willing to sacrifice? What life could emerge from such destruction? Tears streamed down her face as she dropped to her knees, horror slipping through her fingers like sand. I don't know. The cry tore from her throat, filled with raw agony. Then let the shadows consume you, whispered the darkness, and reveal the true depths of your power. The ground trembled, a last gasp from the very foundations of despair. Sarah's breath quickened, realization crashing down like the weight of the world. She had to make a choice, but which path would lead her towards salvation? And would that path condemn her friends to eternal darkness? As the chamber quaked, she realized she couldn't just run. Would she face the deepest shadows of her soul? The mirrors shattered around her, scattering shards that glinted like stars in the dread-laden air. In that moment, a glimmer of hope flickered, teasing the edge of her mind. But hope often came with a price. What terror loomed behind the choices yet to be made? What sacrifices awaited in the uncharted darkness? The ground beneath Sarah's feet trembled violently, each pulse igniting memories that flared like wildfire in her mind. Her friends' voices echoed louder, merging with the whispers of the shadows, each one a haunting reminder of the risks she had taken, the bonds she had neglected. Make a choice, Sarah! The darkness cried out, a cacophony raging against her will. Will you let go of your guilt, or bow down before the shadows? Tears streamed down her cheeks, her heart pounding like a drum. All of this chaos, all of this torment was born from fear and misplaced trust. The reflection of her darker self chuckled ominously. You have the power to save them, but at what cost? Let them go. The desperate plea clawed its way out of her throat. I wouldn't trade anyone's soul for my bravery. Every word felt heavy, thick with the weight of her struggle. But the shadows bore down on her, their cold grasp threatening to swallow her whole. Bravery? They scoffed, their laughter chilling her bones. It's cowardice that will condemn you all. No! Sarah shouted, feeling a spark ignite within her, the embers of determination flaring into a blaze. I choose to fight for them. As if in response to her unwavering spirit, the shadows howled in rage. The ground cracked and splintered, sending shards of darkness spiraling through the air like daggers. But whether she faced darkness or kinship, she knew she had to push forward. Do it for them! Sarah screamed, heart racing as she turned towards the reflections of her friends, the faces she had cherished since childhood. They were twisted, yes, but beneath it all, she could feel the weight of their love pulling her back. I refuse to let you define me, she declared, summoning every ounce of strength she had left. I won't abandon them again. Beaming a light from her heart that cut through the suffocating gloom, she surged toward the figures before her. You are still in there. Trust me. The silhouettes began to shift, the agonized expressions retreating momentarily from the shadows that had defined them too long. Anna's eyes flickered, recognition seeping through the darkness. Sarah! Anna's voice broke through as the shadows hissed, swirling around them desperately. You can save us! Strength spread through her, igniting a silver string of hope that coursed with electricity. She raced towards the chains binding her friends, feeling the cold, biting edges of despair clamp down on her. Hold on! With a primal scream, she thrust her hands into the darkness, willing the chains to break. The shadows writhed, battling against her surge of determination, but began to splinter under the pressure of her will. This ends now. Let them go. With a burst of light, the shadowy chains shattered in a flurry of darkness, scattering pieces like shattered glass. Anna, Jake, and the others stumbled forward, regaining their forms, the nightmare behind their eyes melting away as warmth flooded in. The laughter of shadows turned to wails of anguish, retreating as behind them surged a swelling light. Heart pounding in her chest, Sarah turned breathless. Are you okay? She reached out for Anna, who grasped her hand tightly, eyes gleaming with unshed tears. I thought I lost you, Anna said, voice raw but steady. No! Jake's voice joined them, eyes fierce. We're together now. We need to move. The darkness might try to regroup. But as they stood there, facing the crumbling chamber, Sarah felt ineffable relief wash over her. They had broken free, and the power of their bond shone brighter than any darkness. With fierce determination, they turned and ran toward the fading light, forward into a world clearer than they had ever known. The echoes of the past faded behind them as each step pressed onward into their future. And then they were out into the storm, rain cleansing the remnants of darkness that clung to them. The clouds peeled away, revealing a hauntingly beautiful dawn. The horizon glimmered with promises of freedom, of life renewed. Together, we'll mend what has been broken, an avowed voice filled with an unshakable resolve. Together, Sarah repeated, taking a deep breath, her friend's hands tight around hers. We can face anything. As they walked toward the light of a new day, Sarah felt a warmth in her chest, a fire stoked by hope, a reminder that the shadows could not claim them because together, they had chosen to fight. And in this world, a world relit by their unity and love, she knew finally that darkness could never extinguish their light. Now more than ever, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that await. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Your support is crucial to us. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild conclusion. Let us know what you think. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this heart-pounding finish. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.